You're welcome to Adkwart Studios. There is a shocking message. The last words of Ouattara, Côte d'Ivoire's president. Last words of what? Before he was captured, escaped, or hardened. His last words. Wow. Wow. Yes, Ouattara. Ninsemo oketwa atuo. Na oketwa atuo no. Ansa ne yachi no, ansa no wadine ho kosi. Ana edian ya. Now we can't tell. It's amazing. Yankotie.
No one saw him, no one heard from him, and yet the entire nation felt him. For 5 days, President Alassane Ouattara disappeared from the public eye. No addresses, no appearances, no denials, just a cold, silent palace, where the curtains stayed drawn and the gates remained shut. Outside the capital, whispers turned to roars. At first, they said he was ill. Then, they claimed he'd fled. But by the 4th night, the rumor had evolved into something far more terrifying. He's writing his last speech. The streets of Abidjan pulsed with tension. Markets opened, but no one smiled. Taxis ran, but the radios were silent. Even children whispered, asking their mothers if the president was still in charge. And in the heart of the city, something strange happened. The French embassy dimmed its lights, military checkpoints vanished, and foreign journalists quietly boarded flights home. Something had shifted, something no one could name, but everyone could feel. Meanwhile, across the border in Burkina Faso, inside a dimly lit war room, Captain Ibrahim Traoré reviewed a single-page dispatch. No headers, no stamps, just 6 chilling words. He will speak, prepare for aftermath. He looked up at his inner circle and said quietly, he's not resigning, he's rewriting his legacy. And so, Africa held its breath. Because when a man like Ouattara, a man who ruled with steel, silence, and Paris at his side, prepares a final message, it is not for peace, it is for power. It began at 4 a.m., long before the sun rose over Abidjan. Convoys of blacked-out military trucks moved silently through the outer districts. No sirens, no spotlights, just the hum of diesel engines and the clatter of steel boots on tarmac. Residents peeked through shutters. Phones lit up across the capital. Telegram groups buzzed with 2 words repeated like code. It's time. Inside the presidential grounds, Ouattara's compound was still, but something inside was shifting. Technicians rolled in with satellite gear. A makeshift studio was being built, not in the National Hall, but in a private media room beneath the palace. The script had not yet been released. Only a small, handwritten note had been given to his speech assistant. No edits, no cuts, 1 take. The stage was being set, not for a speech, but for a final reckoning. AES intercepts the signal. In a military outpost on the edge of Kohogo, an AES electronic warfare unit picked up a frequency spike from Abidjan. The metadata confirmed what they feared. A live broadcast channel had been activated, private, unlisted, direct to satellites. Captain Ibrahim Traoré was immediately notified. He read the report, nodded once, and said, "Lock eyes on that feed. If he confesses, the world watches. If he lies, we respond." Beside him, Commander Amadou Kone stood up, clenched his fists, and added, "No man should fall without facing truth, even Ouattara." On the ground, the people stir. In the early morning haze, citizens across Côte d'Ivoire began gathering near screens. Markets brought out dusty televisions. Students hacked old projector rigs to stream encrypted feeds. And in the slums of Yopougon, grandmothers held prayer circles, not for mercy, but for accountability. They'd heard the rumors, they knew the betrayal, but they never thought they'd live to see the man behind it all speak freely. And then, at 6 a.m., the countdown clock appeared on national television. Presidential address, 18 Chu GMT. One single banner ran beneath it in red. This will be his last. By noon, the tension in Abidjan was so thick, even the birds flew low. Shops stayed open, but barely. Men who once shouted over football scores now whispered over charcoal fires. Children were sent home early from school, not for fear of violence, but for what the adults called a moment history won't repeat. Inside the presidential compound, final preparations were underway. Not for war, not for celebration, but for a reckoning, recorded on camera. No stage, no flags, just a room. Ouattara had refused the ceremonial presidential hall. Instead, he chose a private basement studio, built years earlier for confidential diplomacy. Now, that same room would become the stage for his most public moment. The setup was modest. One podium, one unmarked flag behind him, a high-powered mic tuned for clarity, 2 cameras, one wide, one locked tight on his face. The technicians worked in silence. They had no script, no second takes, only a countdown timer on the screen that read 5 hours, 43 minutes. The document arrives. At 1:15 p.m., a plain envelope was hand-delivered to the director of the Ivorian National Broadcast Agency. Inside it, a single-page statement, typed, signed, stamped. This is the only version to be aired. No edits, no commentary, no delay. Let the people hear me as I am. Alassane Dramane Ouattara. Attached was a sealed USB drive marked, final address, live feed only, security on edge. While the press room stayed calm, the outside perimeter bristled with tension. AES-linked intelligence teams monitored all military units in the city. At least 3 former loyalist generals had been detained quietly overnight. Rumors swirled that France had offered Ouattara a last-minute airlift, one that he refused. "He won't run," said an AES colonel. "He wants to die a president, not a fugitive." Meanwhile, across the region, in Ouagadougou, Captain Traoré turned away from a live intelligence screen and spoke to his team. "Get the recording team ready. If he speaks the truth, we broadcast it across the Sahel. If he lies, we broadcast the silence that follows." In Bamako, Assimi Goïta sent a short message to his media team. "Let Africa listen, without interruption." The clock kept ticking. The lights were now perfect, the audio clear, the camera live feed synced. The room was ready, but no one knew. Was Ouattara? At exactly 5:59 p.m., the red recording light turned on. No anthem, no introduction, just the hum of a live feed and the low breathing of a man walking slowly into the frame. Alassane Dramane Ouattara, once praised in Paris, once feared in Abidjan, now stood alone. No guards behind him, no advisors beside him, no podium brimming with flags, just a dark wooden desk, a single microphone, and the weight of a continent on his shoulders. He wore a crisp white bubu, no medals, no lapel pin, just fabric, simple, clean, symbolic. The world watched. In every corner of Ivory Coast, silence fell. In crowded taxis and dusty markets, in rebel bases and government offices, even in villages with no electricity, people gathered around radios and phones, waiting. In Paris, a secure channel at the Élysée played the feed in real time. In Moscow, Russian diplomats leaned forward with interest. And in Ouagadougou, Captain Traoré sat quietly, remote in hand, eyes locked on the screen. The first words. Ouattara looked straight into the camera. No script in front of him, no teleprompter glow, just a pause. And then, to the people of Côte d'Ivoire, to Africa, and to history, I speak not as a president, but as a man who has carried both power and regret. There were no cheers, no reaction, just a collective holding of breath. He continued, "For over a decade, I ruled this country, but I now realize I did not lead it. I managed interests, I preserved systems, but I did not protect the soul of our nation. And for that, I ask for your forgiveness. No interruptions, no cuts. The technicians watched nervously. Would he stop mid-speech? Would this be a setup for denial? Would a convoy crash through the gates and rescue him? But none of that came. He stood still. He spoke slowly, and for the first time, he looked human. Across Africa, hearts pounded. No one expected this. No defiance, no rage, only the beginning of something no one saw coming. I stayed too long. I listened to the wrong voices, and I confused order with obedience. Alassane Ouattara, live on national broadcast. The silence after that line was louder than applause. In Abidjan, a mother dropped her spoon mid-cooking. In Paris, an analyst whispered, "This wasn't in the script." In Bamako, a youth leader burst into tears. This was not the final roar of a cornered president. This was something rarer, a man confronting his own shadow.
You have heard it all, and I want to translate it in Chi. What brofo no ntie hu hia se mesa ka brofo bi mu. Now, Ouattara na nsɛm a ɛba wieye a sese obi anim baabi a ɔhyɛ ɛde sɛ yɛde ne kɔhyɛ dan ɛna camera baako esi ne so ɛna mark baako esi n'anim na ɔn sɛ waka firimra yɛte sɛ Coup ɛkɔ so wɔ Ivory Coast ɛna ɔde abɛwie ne nsɛm a ɔkaeɛ sɛ yɛmpa abibifo nyinaa kyɛw titiri Côte d'Ivoire for na ɔnkasa te sɛ president biem na ɔkasa sɛ ordinary person na ɔyɛ mfonsoɔ ɛfiri sɛ otietie nsɛm bi a n'ani sɛ otie ɛna wammoa ne nkurɔfoɔ na mmom ɔde ne ho to nkurɔfoɔ bi so na ne nyinaa ne sɛ wadi ne man nhwamɔ. Let me ask this serious question. Will the so-called leaders or president in Africa wait for them to be captured before they can come to their senses? Enti before no better say before amodi oman anymore. Mo better say am ya chimo ansa na mo nyansa. Oh, me kan ra mo ntiase. Ngrofo a abon pa. E wo wiase, e wo before omo edi anymore. Most of them na bon pa. Meka bon a na nya ni school awako bon se obu man no osi Ouattara wo ba na astrafo di na chi twa ne pusin samre ne de obi enka no ho the crop for ministers no obi enka no ho nti ya na modwen se bibi se betumi atomo ya na eba modwen mu se 4 years and 5 years no etwa mu a mo ba beye ordinary say ordinary ya na ewo madwen mu sa wango because obi a on timi nwene o kira de betimi asi na brabo mu enim nyansa se mo tran no ma na fidie ni yimu ansa because esom nan ya na modom nse sane the song son na ya na fi wanu mu nsɛm asa na emra ɔtena ase no na Burkina Faso hwɛ sɛ ampa Coup no ayɛ kan ɛbɛyɛ adwuma na France for no so hwɛ sɛ bibi sa bɛba so because ɔmo nim yie sɛ ɔmo dwapade omo property ene Côte d'Ivoire president na se wa no oye leader ewo abibimem na nipa na wodi won so no enya mfaso ewo wo ho na enkrofo bi abba Are you not a wicked leader? And there are a lot. Say omoni abrofo ne ban adwen na ejapade a wo man ni mu no eho memfa so many pet to man na yankopon de hia asase no ye dey o kire wo dia wo pa che mo hu say yati say o se kwan bia so na ECOWAS be boa no a obetimi atra so akopim mra because obi antimi ntu no say the omo kan yampa de a because ye ni every custodian news na ya tia ya so ye kan bi na nkasa na tia de a ene nka Africa e be de nyame ase ba bia mesre ya bibi memu ni se obi a man ho kwan se Western ne America force aba be yusu ye ni ankasa nkrofo na bi o mama we in CPM or is because they want to kick off Ibrahim Traore and I am no more try several times and yajuma mon fighting say now Africa is coming together as one body to fight against the common enemy. And let's tell the Western that black man is capable to manage his own affair. And now Africa is shaking the whole world because of one person. Yeah. What in na se na tie dia na e kwan bi so nke be de nyame ase na hon mama meye e kwan yon be fa so mo benya kwan attack Ibrahim Traore France for ne montra mo kromo that Maxwell the American general is now at Kenya doing what? Doing what? Why are you people concerned about Africa? Not for our good, but for your selfish interest. The last words are okay, I don't know. I would say we are waiting to hear from the president. Either is captured or still president. We want to know. Tibabi or Shebiano. Yes, in the last verse, no, but one chile said the last verse New Year, the SC. Until we are waiting for the next news. Now, you're the bro. More energy. Bye bye.